Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the CLDSA Speakers Series, Cold Water Capers. Special shout out to the watch parties who tuned in, and welcome to the rest of you as well. This is our 5th edition, where we speak to some of the legends and experts in the world of open water and long distance swimming. We'll be following the usual format of 30 minutes of chat, followed by 10 minutes of questions. So feel free to write down the questions in the comments section. We'll be moderating them, and we'll try and get to as many of them as is possible. We're back tonight, and we really have a legend in our midst. It's Sarah Ferguson. Sarah is a former South African swimmer who has a number of firsts in long distance swimming to her name. For example, she's the first African woman to swim the Kaiwi Channel crossing, 58 kilometers, and she did it in about 18 hours. She's the first person to swim Aliwal Shoal solo swim, 18 kilometers. First woman to swim Umhlanga to Durban, 18 kilometers. As you can maybe establish, she lives in Durban currently. She's from Cape Town originally, though. And I think most notably of her achievements, first person in the world to circumnavigate Rapa Nui, otherwise known as Easter Island. She did this in 2019, 63.5 kilometers, 19 hours it took her, and it's a Guinness World Record. She's also completed a pretty rapid Cape Point swim, 2:06, and a Robben Island in 2:02. Since 2012, she has been competing and pioneering open water swims along the coast of South Africa to help raise awareness of plastics in our ocean. She founded the non-profit organization Breathe Conservation, which we'll be talking about shortly. Professionally, she's a physiotherapist, and recently she went to Japan with the South African Olympic team. So welcome, Sarah. Did I miss anything out?
No, that's good. Thanks, Tom. Thanks everyone for listening and watching. It's cool to see some familiar faces or names here. I wish I could see your faces. It's much better. But I understand it's distracting. So yeah, it's cool to be here. It's an honor to be amongst some of you. Thanks, Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Here's another legend. I think a lot of people on this talk are legends. So yeah, thanks for the introduction.
Well, we're very privileged to have you here. So thank you very much for joining us. And I'm really looking forward to the next 40 or 35 minutes of chat. So I'd mentioned it right at the end. You joined the South African Olympic team as a physiotherapist, and you've just recently been in Japan. It wasn't long ago at all. How was the Olympics?
Yeah, it was. It's not the answer that I think a lot of people expect me to tell. I'm going to share my screen just so I can show you some photos. But while I speak, it's been a dream of mine to go to Tokyo or to go to the Olympics my whole life. So it was awesome to finally see that dream come true. But the process of getting there was very challenging because we had massive riots in Durban 3 days before I had to leave, and that was obviously a devastating and tragic time in our country and in my second hometown. And a lot of people didn't really realize how bad it was if they didn't live here. So it was really hard leaving amidst that crisis to go and live my dream, essentially, or one of my dreams. And then obviously with it being a pandemic, it was very thwarted and sort of dulled down because we had to wear masks all the time, which is fine. But the physio in the medical room is normally the place where people hang out and it's fun and you socialize. We couldn't do any of that. So it was very much a business focused event. This is where we were all being very illegal, wearing no masks. This is the physio team at the rings, which is one of the most photographed places at the Olympics. So yeah, it was awesome to be there and see the best in the world competing in amazing facilities. But it was also really tragic not being able to get out and explore the city and experience Japan, because I believe Tokyo is amazing.
Okay, brilliant. What was the Gears like with the swimming team? We saw some images from Tokyo, and it seemed that there was something going on in the team.
Yeah, so I think it might be best for me to scroll through these photos and talk, and then you can add questions at the end. 'Cause otherwise it's going to be complicated for me to speak. So yeah, this is the medical team, the physio team. As you can see, it was
Sorry,
a nice group.
Sarah, we can't see any photos. We're just
Oh.
seeing your.
No. How do I? Can you not see anything?
No.
Oh, I did see.
We've just seen the thumbnails. Try unshare and then share again.
Okay. Hang on. Let's just go there. Stop. Okay. Is that better? Can you see that?
No, we're still seeing the thumbnails.
Oh. Okay. I don't know how to fix it. Okay. On my screen, it's showing it as a big picture on my screen, so that should be what you see.
Yeah, we're all seeing thumbnails, unfortunately.
Oh. I don't know if anyone knows how to fix that. I'm clicking on the pictures individually. Can you see that?
No, you're not sharing it.
Oh, I'm not sharing, sorry. Hang on. Let's try it the third time. Can you see that picture?
Yes. Now we see. Yeah.
Okay, now I have to try open each picture. Okay, so this is this one, the athletic stadium, just to give you an idea of how amazing the venues are. Can you see this picture?
Yes.
Is it different to the one before? Is this of the rings?
No.
No. Okay. Stadium. Okay. But you can see that picture of the stadium still.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, this is complicated. Okay, so the stadium was amazing. Just to give you an example of how amazing the facilities are, I'm going to just try and open them individually and then share them. Okay, let's just go back to your question while I try and get these photos ready.
Just asking about the spirit of the team.
Oh yeah, so it was amazing. Like I've never been in a team quite like what we had in this Olympics with the swimmers particularly. It was really like emotional, just seeing how sort of tight they were and how supportive they were, particularly amongst the girls, which is quite unusual. They were just really amazing at supporting each other and just wanting the best for each other and celebrating each other, crying when they didn't do well. It was great having someone like Chad there with all his experience, and he really took on like a leadership role and just, you know, he did a little pep talk and spoke to the guys beforehand, just sort of motivating them and saying go out there and have fun and all of those things. So yeah, the team spirit was amazing. Obviously, like one of the big highlights of the event was Tatiana's world record performance and gold medal performance. That was by far a highlight. Yeah, it was really special. It was really sad for me when the swimmers left, because then I felt like I was all alone again, because I was with all aquatics. But then we had the open water swimming, which was awesome. Being with Michelle, a lot of you guys know Michelle Weber, and have swum with her before. So that was just a shift in venue. It was a terrible venue in terms of it was really hot. It was 29 degrees. The water in an outside area was 35 degrees, so it was pretty hectic. But yeah, it was an amazing overall, and I would do it again despite it being challenging.
And were you mixing up with the rest of the sports codes, or were you very much keeping to yourselves as the aquatics team?
We kind of stuck to our team. So once, like I had to do, once swimming started and even before, we were basically with the swimmers. So we would go with them to training, treat them on the side of the pool while they warmed up, and then leave, treat any athletes at the village that hadn't been seen or otherwise other athletes, and then go back to the pool. So once the competition started, we were basically with swimming. But we did get to treat other athletes as well. I had climbing as well that I treated and worked with, which was an amazing experience. I don't know if you can see this picture. but this is
The buses.
Yes, this is just like showing how neat and organized and high tech they are. These are like eco-friendly environmental buses. This, can you see this one of the rings?
No, it's playing hard to get.
So I have to like stop and start and stop and start. That's so irritating. Okay. Oh, okay. I'll just be selective then. Yeah. So
you were watching. So you were working quite a lot of the time. I mean, did you get a chance to watch many of the other sports? Did you get any recreational time yourselves?
Yeah, we did. We did have once the swimming. So I was with aquatic sport climbing, and that was all. It was really cool to see those sports. So sorry, sport climbing. I can't multitask. I'm going to stop. Sport climbing was really awesome to be a part of. It was a new sport at the Olympics, and was very spectator friendly. So it was really cool to be there, be part of it, be treating our athletes. I think it was obviously amazing for them to represent the country at a sport that's very unknown here. And yeah, we did. So once that was all done from my side, I had about 4 or 5 days where I could go and watch athletics, or I watched a bit of rhythmic gymnastics. We were lucky that we had an all access pass as medics, so we could go to any venue, whereas the athletes only had passes to go to like their facility, so they couldn't go and watch athletics if they were swimmers, which was quite sad for them. But yeah, it was amazing that we could get to see other sports, but it was just weird not having crowds.
And with the next Olympics less than 3 years away, do you think you jump at the chance of doing this all again?
Absolutely. I definitely would like to feel like I had a proper Olympic experience, which I didn't feel I had in Tokyo. Obviously, it was thwarted, as I said, not being able to go to the opening ceremony and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, I would love to. And if I got invited, I'd definitely go if I could. I was available to go. Yeah.
Okay. That's so a bit different to you. You're normally the swimmer in the water, but there you were sort of treating all the swimmers. And I want to talk to you. You were part of the big staff contingent looking after all of them. But talking of big staff contingents, I was just reading up about your trip to Easter Island in 2019, and there was quite a big staff contingent looking after you. Presumably quite a lot to do to plan a swim that had never been done before. So why did you choose Easter Island?
So I chose it because it has got the highest concentration of microplastics in the world. I'm not sure if you can see this picture of the island.
Yes.
Okay, good. So when I had done, so the reason why I do any of the swimming that I do is to try and create awareness against single-use plastics, and just to try and encourage people to change their behavior around consumerism and things like that. So I did Hawaii was my very first swim of any kind, of any significance, and that kind of set me the platform to go from there. I didn't really know what I was getting into, and I didn't know if I'd want to continue after Hawaii, but it was definitely the highlight of my life, and I got hooked after that. So from there, it was kind of like, where can I go that's really going to highlight plastic? Because Hawaii is this beautiful tropical island, and that's on some research found Easter Island, having been in the South Pacific Ocean in the middle of nowhere, it has the highest concentration in the world, which is devastating. So that's kind of how that came about. As you mentioned earlier, it's a lot of research and planning, because no one's ever swum. Well, one person had attempted to swim around that island before, but we couldn't really get any information from him, or any data on like the conditions for swimming and currents and things. So it was really tricky to kind of try and plan that. And John, who wrote the book you'll hear about just now, some of you have read it already. He's this guy with the bald head and the beard. His job was to, there you go, Tom's holding the book up. to figure out the time of year, which direction to swim, etc. So he really had a big task on his hands. But yeah, it was a big team event, a lot of planning. That's actually like 2 or 3 days before. That was the day we arrived on the island with the whole team, the local Navy involved with the safety, this boat skipper, the kayak guys who were local people, which were incredibly valuable to have. And then my team with my doctor, my coach, and John, and then we had a translator as well. So yeah, it was a big team effort.
So yeah, I mean, how did you choose March? You did it in March, right?
Yes, March 2019. I think that was just best in terms of swell and weather patterns from what research we could get. And then we just kind of took a step and went for it.
Okay, and then I mean, you talked about that previous swimmer. I mean, you took 19 hours. That previous swimmer was pulled out after 27 hours.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I mean, how long were you prepared to swim for?
I prepared mentally for 24 to 30 hours. John kept on saying I must prepare for like 36, and I was like, no, no. But I was prepared for up to 30 hours of swimming, mentally
Sure.
and physically. Yeah.
And then, okay, so I mean, it's a long swim. How do you pace yourself on a swim like that? I mean, are you starting out strong, or do you just go as fast as you feel at the time? Or
Yeah,
do you have like a formula?
I don't really have a strategy. I kind of just have a steady, comfortable pace. Once I got in the water, you can see in this photo here, the waves were really big. So they actually closed the harbor as soon as we got in, pretty much. I was starting to feel seasick already, and took some of my famous Valoid suppositories, which sorted me out. But within an hour of swimming, I already started to feel the effects of the salt water. The salinity in East Island was, other than the Dead Sea, the most saline water I've ever been in my life. It was even more than Hawaii, and Hawaii is more than here. So I really hadn't anticipated that aspect of it. I had prepared for salt, but not to the extent that I was feeling in Easter Island. And so because of that, I basically swam a bit faster than I normally do because I just wanted to get out. I was like, I'm done. I just want to get out. So I swam a bit harder than I would normally just because I was unhappy.
So I mean, some of us have pretty much done 3-hour swims or 4-hour swims, and occasionally we feel from the salt water, even in Cape Town, that our tongue swells up a bit. I mean, you're saying much higher salinity and then going for 19 hours. I mean, that what does that do to your body?
Yeah, so your tongue swells up. I was literally taking chunks of Vaseline and coating my mouth and my tongue with it to try and like stop it absorbing. It was something that is what I do and you can all practice at home if you want, is just take like 10 teaspoons of salt and put it in water and then like hold that in your mouth and see how long you can manage. It was like 37 grams per liter or something, whereas like Hawaii is like 33 grams per liter. I need to revise those stats because I can't actually remember them, but it's something like that. So it's a lot saltier, and Hawaii is saltier than Durban, and Durban is saltier than Cape Town. So just obviously warmer water, it's saltier. What it does to you, obviously you get dehydrated, but more than that, at one point my throat started swelling up and it made it difficult to breathe. And then I didn't panic, but I started to try not to panic, and got a bronchodilator, which I took, and it didn't help. So then I knew it wasn't a lung issue. So then I actually calmed down because I was like, I'll be fine. It's not my lungs. It's just that my throat is so swollen. But I reckon if I had been in there for another 10 hours, I don't know if I would have finished because of the swelling in the throat. So it does knock you. And I think that was one of the reasons why Christian, who tried before me, had to get out, was the saline content. He did also get hypothermic though, so there were a few things with him.
What was the temperature of the water?
It was actually really warm. I had anticipated to be about 18 degrees, and so I had put on quite a lot of body fat for the swim, but it ended up being about 24, 25 degrees. So I actually got hot and actually took my cap off for some of the swim just because it was a lot warmer than I expected.
Sure. Okay. And then we see those rough seas. I read in the book that you nearly didn't finish. I mean, the Navy wanted to pull you out.
Yeah.
So
as you saw in the very beginning, it was very big swell, and they are quite conservative. And because of what had happened before, they didn't really want to take any chances. But I was literally like at the end, it was just about like swimming into the harbor. So it was kind of like swimming in at Granger Bay, where you guys finished some of those swims. It's Granger Bay, yeah. It's kind of swimming into that like harbor area, but there's a whole bunch of rocks and big swell, but it's like a narrow area that you have to swim through. So it was big. I mean, the Navy boat, it's very funny. But so I had my little boat and my kayaks, and they had to like navigate me into at the end there. And it was just about timing. And by then I was like done. I was like, I want to get out. I just want to get out. And they kept on like holding me back and saying, just wait. And then they said, go. And then we got in. And because of the local knowledge was the only reason why we finished that safely, because they knew the timing and they knew when to say go and stuff like that. So, but then the Navy boat actually finished at a different harbor, like just around the corner, but they almost crash landed when they were supposed to be more experienced. So it was quite ironic. But yeah, there was no ways that I was going to like be aboard the swim that close to the end. So I was like, I'm swimming to the end. If I get cut up in the process, that's fine.
Sure. Well, I mean, if people want to read more about this incredible feat of yours, I highly recommend this book by John McCarthy. You can find it on Sarah's website, breatheconservation.org. It's already, or speak to some swimmers. I'm sure there's a couple of copies going around as well. Talking of documenting your great swim, there's some news, isn't there? So something else is about to be released about the swim.
Yeah, I'm going to share with you now. Yeah, so on the 4th of October, we are doing a screening of the movie. They made a movie of the swim, and it's called Against the Current. And so we're going to be doing a private screening in Cape Town for the movie on the 4th of November. It's not the 2nd. Thursday, the 4th of November at 8 o'clock, probably at the Labia Theatre, but that's to be confirmed. We're just finalizing a few details. It's very last minute, but the director is actually going to be in South Africa, so that's why we're doing it. So I'll be sending out all the details to you guys, and you can join us there if you want to. Very excited. I haven't seen the movie myself, so I'll have watched it in Durban. We're doing a screening, but it'll be my second viewing of it, but I haven't seen it yet. So yeah, that's an hour-long documentary that they put together. That's just kind of coming out now.
No, it's amazing. So we very much look forward to that, and I'm sure you'll hear all about it from the CLDSA when the screening happens. So we'll happily the CLDSA publicize the viewing. Yeah, moving on, you talked about plastics. I mean, it's amazing how isolated Easter Island is, yet full of plastic. Now, 2012, as I said, you started pioneering swims to try and raise awareness of ocean plastic. You've formed this lovely slogan, "Live deeply, tread lightly," as well. Where did the inspiration come from?
For Breathe.
Yes, sorry, for Breathe.
It's a very long story. I'll try and keep it short because I'm aware of time. But basically, when I retired from competitive swimming, I knew there was something more that I wanted to do with my career, and kind of fell in love with ocean swimming in Hawaii the first time I went there. But wanted to swim for something like bigger than myself and that had more meaning, rather than just to break records or do my personal best times and things like that. So it was through a process of trying to figure out what I was passionate about and what I would sort of risk my life for, in a sense. to kind of create awareness. So I was very inspired by Lewis Pugh and what he does. But I was also very like, I want to do something that he isn't doing. So I don't want to swim in the cold water. I don't want to swim for climate change, but like what am I passionate about that's close to my heart that I can kind of try and highlight. And that's kind of where Breathe was formed, and swimming against plastic pollution, which at the time when it all started out was not a global pandemic or issue like it is now. So it's just, for me, it's been an amazing journey of like how the timing of everything has worked out really well in terms of highlighting this really important issue, and it actually ties in really closely with climate change. So yeah, that's kind of a short answer to your question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I think it's quite close to many of our hearts. We swim in the oceans regularly, and plastic, even isolated in Cape Town, is a big problem. We've got plastic in our rivers. From the mountains to the ocean, there's plastic. I think 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the ocean every year. So it is something that's only getting worse. I think the simple act of washing a polyester fleece also creates microplastics. So yeah, I think it's something that we all care a lot about, given that we swim in the ocean. So yeah, thanks very much for all that you do there. I think it's a great cause. And you do these swims to raise awareness. And you've got a big swim coming up in the next year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so next year we're planning on, I'm going to be swimming from Durban to Cape Town. It's going to be called the One Ocean Swim, which has gone funny on my screen. But yeah, so I'm basically going to take a year out of my life to swim the coastline, pretty much.
Wow.
I've done a lot of the North Coast, but I'm really excited about the swim because it's super close to my heart. I'm basically swimming from home to home. And yeah, I think it'll be an amazing experience. It's going to be my toughest challenge by far. But yeah, I just think we've got an incredibly beautiful coastline, and there's a lot of work being done to try and protect it. And one of the goals of the swim is to try and highlight what organizations and people are doing along the coastline to try and protect various sections of it, and also just highlight how important it is to protect it and how important it is to change our behavior so that we can have a beautiful coastline for our future generations.
I've got a few more questions about that, but before I do that, so we're about to get into question time. So feel free to, I see there's a couple of questions now coming on, so feel free to put your questions up and we'll get to them. So presumably it's about 1,500 kilometers, right?
Yeah.
From city to city. Obviously not in one go. You're going to plan this in legs. What are we talking? Are we talking about 20, 30 Ks at a time, or is it going to differ from leg to leg?
Yeah, so the plan is to break it down, starting in mid-Feb, to get from Durban. So basically like 6 main stages. So Durban, East London, then East London, Cape St. Francis, then to Knysna, then to Mossel Bay. And the plan is to get from Durban to Mossel Bay by May next year, by the beginning of May. So that's like 1,000 Ks. It's a lot to do in 3 months. Obviously, I'll be stopping on the way. I'll have a break. Once I get to East London, I'll have a good 10 to 14 days break. But that's the fastest, longest stretch I'll be tackling in one go. We're going to try and use the Agulhas Current, or a part of it, as much as we can in that section. So on average for the first section, we'll probably be doing 20 to 30 Ks a day. But on most of the rest of the swim, it'll be more like 15 to 20 Ks a day. We are hoping to try and do 100 Ks in the current if we get the timing right. So we can just smash one fast 100 Ks and get that done in 12 hours and break the current world record for a current assisted swim. But that will depend on all the factors aligning up. The plan for that is also then we'll be off the Transkei coast. We'll be away from the very unsafe zone in summertime. So away from Port Edward and Port St. John's, where it's quite a high risk zone. So we'll be in the current, which is like 30 Ks out to sea. And then,
so you're going to miss, the sardine run When is that?
Yes.
That's in the winter, is that?
That starts from May, so that's why I need to be out of Mossel Bay by May. I need to be there by May because then the breeding and all of that starts and the sardine run starts. Then basically I'll have the month of May of just like resting, and then between June and November I'll be doing 4 months of just like a road tripping throughout South Africa doing educational talks at schools. So we're targeting like 300 schools. We given 500 books of Easter Island to donate to schools. So we've donated that to over 300 schools throughout the country. So we're going to target those schools primarily. They all have them in their library. And like other interventions and things. And then I'll have a November to sort of re-prepare. And then December, January, February, the plan is to get from Mossel Bay to Cape Town. So in summer where it's a bit warmer outside and the great, it's just a better time to do that stretch.
Okay. We got some questions. Sorry, I can't. I think Durban to Cape Town's 24 Easter Islands, so that's going to be a, a big one. The question about your film, will it be available on Netflix or Showmax, or do you not know at this stage?
I think that's the ultimate goal. At this stage, we're just trying to get it out there. So that's why this is a private screening. We can't charge for the actual movie, but we can charge for drinks and stuff to cover the cost of the venue and that. So that is the plan, but they're just trying to get it out there at the moment and into film festivals.
Okay, that's great. Another question from Kat. What did you learn during supporting the athletes in Tokyo that you'll be taking into your own swimming and training?
To be honest, not a lot. I felt, so the swimmers are pretty well supported, but there's still so much to learn and they're so far behind where they could be. Athletics, I was horrified at how poor their basic skills are in terms of just basic proprioceptive work and foot exercises. So I felt like I had a lot more to give than to learn. But it gave me a perspective in terms of what I do and why I do it. The Olympics is an amazing platform and it's revered around the world. And it's always been a dream of mine to be a competitor / go there. But for me, it was quite refreshing in the sense that, like, even if I could go as an athlete now, I wouldn't want to, because I think what I'm doing now for me is more meaningful. So it was quite a revelation for me just to have that moment and just really just be able to enjoy the Olympics for what it is, but not like be disappointed that I couldn't be there as an athlete, if that makes sense.
And how did our support team compare to other countries? I mean, did you find us, were we quite professional? I mean, do other teams have, much bigger support teams, or, I mean, how did we compare?
With what we've got, we're very professional and we're up there in terms of our physios and our doctors. We've got world-class, we can compete against, your Australia and your America, but in terms of other support structures, we are so far behind. So you can't even begin to compare us to like Australia or America. They've got technical teams that come in and their job is just to analyze the video footage. They bring in their own equipment. They bring in fridges full of like their own food just so that they can feel at home. So they've got like the equivalent of like biltong and, things like that's just familiar. Americans will bring in their own mattresses just so that the athletes are comfortable. So it's like it's chalk and cheese in comparison to what we provide for our athletes. But in terms of the skill level and the expertise that we offer as physios and doctors, it's definitely up there. And
I mean, we've done better in some Olympics, certainly, and there was obviously a feeling that we could have done better this time. I mean, do you think we were at a little bit of we're in a growth phase at the moment? Do you think we will set ourselves up quite nicely for 3 years' time with what we have?
I hope so. We have done better in the past, but there's just so many flaws in our system and politics and financial issues and corruption that's unfortunate. But we had a really young team. Our swimmers were really young. If you look at Matthew Sates now in the World Cup, he is breaking records left, right, and center. So it's really encouraging that our youngsters, I mean, as well as our women, like they're young. So we've got a really strong future for our swimming if we can continue supporting them the way that we have to a small extent. We need to support them a lot more. And even the athletics, it was a young team. So I think there is a bright future. It's about looking after them. But we've got better structures in place and things are changing. So I like to be positive and hope that we've got a better future at Paris. But at the same time, I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's very tough just to get to the Olympics. And if you look at our country and what we've been through in the last 2 years, particularly with COVID and then the riots, and the lack of ability to train at venues that you can't compare to first world countries. Like they had all of that despite COVID. Our swimmers, Michael McGlynn didn't even have a venue to train at for like 2 months because he couldn't get to a pool because there were riots or closed or whatever. So they did really, really well despite the circumstances. And it's really like it's less than half a second that's splitting someone like a Chad Leclos from making a final to getting a medal. So everyone sort of using him as an example, he did so badly, but actually he did everything he could. He couldn't have given any more, and it's just really tough to compete at that level. And I think that also was highlighted to me just watching people like a Caleb Dressel come back and win again and again in the same event, like the same competition, is remarkable. I mean, that is just like really, really tough to do. So I think it just gives you a whole new level of respect for what those athletes go to get there. And we really should be proud of our athletes just showing up. And if they do anything more than that, that's just like what Tatiana did is really remarkable.
Yeah, as good as it gets. So just a quick question before I forget. I think people will be annoyed if I don't ask this. Is your big 1,500 kilometer swim, will you be swimming with others?
Yeah, definitely. There are sections where people want to join, they can. For me, like, I mean, I did a recce and I met a lot of the guys in East London, and they've already said, like, when you're coming into East London, we'll come and meet you and swim at the end with you. And I'm already like visualizing that, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to keep me going. So there'll definitely be opportunity if people want to join me for certain stretches. It's always safety is a priority. So the more people in the water, the higher the risk. So we will pick areas that are safer and less high risk for that to happen. But there are opportunities, and I do enjoy the company. So, yeah.
Okay, I think we're pretty much down to our last question. The questions are coming in thick and fast, though. They're asking about your support team for the coming swim. What is it looking like? Is Sarah Houston joining you again? Is John involved? What is your support team looking like for the big swim?
Yeah, so my support team is similar in many ways. Sarah Houston will be with me. John will join as and when he can, but he will be involved as a consultant, if nothing else. But he'll definitely be involved in some of it. I've got a skipper already lined up until Mossel Bay. So I've got the same skipper the whole way, which is helpful. And then the rest we're still trying to kind of put together. I'll have a media team with me. It's relatively small just to keep it simple. We'll have a land-based team. So I'll probably have my massage therapist that I normally use that will come along with me as much as she's able to come. Otherwise, I'll use local people to help with recovery strategies and stuff. But the basic core team will be Sarah Houston, John, and then the skipper, really. I'll be using a medic in terms of helping me with the training and the recovery as well. That same person that I use for Easter Island. So yeah, we try and keep it as small as possible, just to make it as simple as possible. But there's a huge team behind the scenes that are all helping out and involved. So it's quite a complex answer, but that's the basic team is the same.
Okay. All right. So I see we've run out of time. Sorry to those we haven't got to. There's some other questions that are coming through. But Sarah, thank you so much for the last 40 minutes. It's been an absolute pleasure and delight chatting to you. We're very excited for you and what's to come. A lot of us have been following you very closely in terms of what you've been doing. There's you share a lot on Facebook under Sarah Ferguson Endurance Swimmer, I think it is. So you can have a look that up and follow her there. And also on Instagram. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to your launch of your video as well. And yeah, good luck for the training for February.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you all on the 4th of November.
Thursday, the 4th of November. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. That's the end of our 5th installment of Cold Water Capers. We've had fun. It's been great. So we'll stay tuned for announcements about new additions. We've got a lot of other people we'd like to chat to. And we'd like to follow the progress of the people we've chatted to already. So thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for all the questions that came through. And we look forward to seeing you in the water.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Good night. By the way, we're going to have the recording that will be posted